Hello, my name is Stephen Turner, and I am the Managing Director of Rafaella Resources. I'm excited to present to you this junior mining company that I believe has achieved an awful lot in the last 15 months since we made our flagship acquisition of the Santa Comba mine back in August of 2019. First of all, a quick look at the disclaimer. Take note, competent person statements, etc., covering off the fact that we do talk about resources and exploration targets. Rafaella Resources was listed back in July 2018, and it had two exploration assets in it at the time. The McCleery copper, cobalt, and silver project in the Yukon. It also had the Sandstone project, which is a gold exploration project in Western Australia. In August of 2019, though, we acquired the Santa Comba tungsten and tin mine, which is located in Galicia, northwest Spain. Since then, we have sold the Sandstone Gold project, rationalizing the portfolio, putting that asset into Westar Resources, which is currently going through an IPO. We sold it for shares in that company. And then most recently, we have acquired the Midrim and La Force high-grade nickel, copper, and platinum group elements sulfide projects in northern Quebec, thereby leaving the company with two exploration projects still, this time now both in Canada and our development project in Spain with a focus on tungsten, tin, and nickel. That comes on to our focus slide. The purpose for this is just to highlight that the company is very much looking at those materials which we see as critical for the changing environment and the new technologies coming into the economy, such as electric vehicles, etc., where nickel has been highlighted as being of critical supply, tin and tungsten. And these are the commodities that we are broadly focused on. Let me first of all go through the Santa Comba tungsten and tin project. As you can see, it's located in northwest Spain. That puts it extremely well positioned for servicing the European and North American markets. And this is critical because both of those markets are short on tungsten. In fact, there's no production of tungsten in North America, and there's very limited production of tungsten in Europe. Let me just expand a little bit on that. The tungsten market is one that is generally regarded as quite bullish going forward, and this is driven largely by the supply side. China supplies around 80% of global tungsten, consumes 55% of it, and has made no secret of its desire to bring that into balance. And in fact, they have been closing down the smaller mines in China. Other major suppliers being Vietnam and Russia. There is supplies out of Africa, some out of Australia. In Europe, less than half of its annual demand is produced. That's largely out of Spain, Portugal, Austria. And in fact, the two most recent projects to be commissioned are based in Spain. On the supply side, it generally, on the demand side, sorry, it generally follows the GDP growth. It does have various fluctuations, sometimes driven by geopolitical events, particularly given that the material has fairly unique properties. Besides being used in machine tooling, drilling, automobile engines, aircraft engines, etc., it also has a military application. But I think the reason that we really need to focus on the supply side is with China dominating supply and growing geopolitical issues between the USA and other countries with China, there is becoming a greater focus on such critical materials. Tungsten is deemed as such. I know that it wasn't that long ago that Donald Trump signed an executive order focused on this security supply of critical materials. So it's certainly gaining greater attention. With not many new mines coming on stream and existing resources in China declining, as well as grades, we see increasing supply pressure going forward. Santa Comba is the name of a granite massif that's located 7 kilometers from the town of Santa Comba. It hosts the wolframite. This is a wolframite project. Tungsten is generally hosted within either wolframite or scheelite. Wolframite is generally preferred. It's easier to produce. It's less of an environmental impact as it's processed through gravity separation. This mine is predominantly, or historically, has been an underground mine. Now, it was operated between 1980 and 85, but more recently, the focus has been on examining the potential for an open pit operation, and that's been very much the focus of Rafaella over the last 15 months. What is important is, despite a fairly aggressive or extensive drilling campaign over the last 15 months, we still have only drilled out around 10% of the surface mineralization potential. So there's significant upside in this project going forward to feed the process plant for many years to come. So just a quick summary of some of those investment strengths, and those strengths that certainly attracted me to this company, attracted the project to send to Rafaella Resources, and has also brought in such significant players as TransGreen Trading and HC Stark in terms of supporting the project. Is the fact that we have a good resource, a reasonable size resource with strong grades, particularly for an open pit. There's a lot of upside, as I've already mentioned. We have concessions that are granted out to 2068 for underground, for open pit, for underground and for process plant. And then we have an aggregates open pit operation at site, which allows us to also access open pit material. The significant infrastructure at site, roads, grid power, there's a tailings storage facility, etc. And being only 60 kilometers from a deep water port, as I mentioned before, puts us very well placed to supply the end users. I've mentioned already TransGreen Trading and HC Stark. TransGreen Trading came in as a cornerstone investor when we completed this deal back in August in 2019, contributing $1 million to a $2.6 million capital raise. They're one of our largest shareholders, and they have nominated Royston Dennison to the board, which gives us an extremely good relationship with TransAmine. They follow what we're doing, and they have the potential to support us going forward in a number of areas. HC Stark, which is an end user based out of Germany, does have an offer to acquire our concentrate, yet to be executed, but it's a fully termed offer, and that is certainly an indication of appetite for the concentrate we can produce. There's a picture of the Aggregate Quarry operation. You can see there's no agricultural land around. There's no competing use for that land. On the right-hand side is an aerial shot of that Aggregate Quarry. We have a processing plant area slightly to the north of where the quarry sits. Our resource runs up the western side of the quarry, leading to the north. There is roads to site. There's electricity, grid power that comes to site. So it is an area that is industrial. There is a cement works to the north of us. So in that sense, we're not infringing upon any pristine environment, but literally extending a footprint of an industrial series of industrial operations. When we took over the project in 2019, the first thing we did was to better define what was at the time a 5 million ton inferred resource. We completed nearly a 9,000 meter drilling program with 65 holes. We have now defined that resource. It's on the left-hand side of this slide. It's open at depth. It's open to the south and to the north. We certainly think there's an awful lot of potential to the south of this current defined deposit, and we intend to go back in and do some additional drilling. But nevertheless, we did achieve our target of converting a 5 million ton inferred resource into measured and indicated. That's indicated in this slide here, where you can see we now sit measured and indicated for the near surface mineralization of over 6 million tons. So 60% of our near surface mineralization is now sitting in measured and indicated, which gives us a substantial inventory to put into a mine plan and feed into a feasibility study. Picture on the left is just an image of that measured, indicated, and inferred pit or resource, I should say, that has been modeled as part of our mineral resource estimate. The photographs on the top, in the middle, the near surface mineralization is a disseminated ore, so it's disseminated through the through the granite. You can see this flecks of dark coloring, which is the wolframite. And on the right-hand side is an example of one of the narrow vein, high grade wolframite veins that passes through the underground. And hence there are two sources of wolframite that we will be chasing, both near surface and underground. Part of our feasibility study that's been ongoing has been in looking at ore sorting. This is a process or a process that sits in front of the process plant. It's a sorting process that allows you to drive down operating costs and capital costs by crushing the rock to within certain parameters, passing along a conveyor belt, and using X-rays to determine whether the rock is ore bearing or not. Our test work, which we did several stages on that, eventually a bulk sample based on representative grade following our resource modeling, determined that we could have basically a doubling of the grade. We could reject half of the ore going through, which means that on a million ton per annum, for example, a million ton per annum sort of production level, we don't need a 500,000 ton per annum process plant. So beneficial both from a capital and from an OPEX perspective, also better from an environmental perspective as well. So extremely good results from that. We were very pleased with that, and we announced that to the market a couple of months ago. We've also been ongoing with our metallurgical study work. Those results were made public fairly recently. We've been very pleased with that as well. We've been able to confirm that our disseminated ore, our near surface ore, can achieve recoveries of overall recoveries of 70%. This is extremely good as it underpins the feasibility study that we are close to completing. Significant infrastructure at site, which basically means that we can move very rapidly through to development. And we've actually already started on some early underground commissioning work. There's 7,000 meters of underground tunnels and so forth within the project, and we are now going in and clearing that up so that we can access as an initial target some 18,000 tons of ore that was left behind. Good social license to operate, a lot of interaction and involvement with the local community, both Santa Comba and the Department of Mines, with an intention to get the feasibility study out quickly into construction, commissioning, and sales, ideally late 2021 and early 2022, if all goes according to plan. Also, we have now a very exciting exploration portfolio based in Canada, a copper, cobalt, silver, and Yukon, and a recently acquired Midrim, La Force, nickel, copper, and platinum group element high-grade deposits in northern Quebec. In the case of McCleery, we've just completed a geochemical mapping program. The results of that will be out shortly, and we look forward to releasing that to the market. We've just completed, as of the 5th of November, the acquisition of Midrim and La Force. Midrim and La Force are two deposits in northern Quebec, sulfide deposits that have an extremely attractive intercepts from historical drilling. We've now got access to that database, and we've reviewed that, and we are planning a helicopter EM survey across the Midrim claims as part of the ongoing work, which we believe will realize significant value for Rafaella and shareholders. Quick look at the corporate snapshot. We've just issued more shares to complete that acquisition, so we sit around 107 million. Board members made up of those that came across, they were originally with the IPO. Robert Rickson came across when the Santa Comba was purchased, and Royston is a representative of Transamine. You can see that also represented in our shareholder list. So why Rafaella? Well, we've got a near-term production asset with a lot of investment and infrastructure in place already. A lot of those risks through the drilling campaign and through the metallurgical test work have now been mitigated. We're close to releasing a feasibility study. And also, we have some very exciting exploration assets in our portfolio, for which there are programs in place and others ones being planned, which we believe will yield significant value for shareholders. So that's Rafaella Resources. I hope that you have found that interesting, and I look forward to our one-to-one meetings. Thank you.